Thank you so much for agreeing to talk with me. Dave, I was just hoping that you would start by introducing yourself for my readers who aren't familiar with you.
I grew up in Washta in southern Cherokee County, and I graduated from the last class of Willow Community High School. There used to be a high school in Quimby, about 6 miles north of Washta. And over the last, 30 years, lots of small schools, including that school, have closed. It's now part of the River Valley School District, which is in Cherokee, Ida, and Woodbury County, and has four towns located in the school district. And I currently live in Lawton, which is another small town in rural Woodbury County. And I've lived in Lawton for the last 8 years with my wife, and we have three children, including her son, who's a senior, her daughter, who's a junior, and our daughter, who is in sixth grade now.
And you served in the Iowa House. Can you talk a little bit about your past public service?
Yes, I really do have a lot of proven leadership skills, having served in Iowa House for two terms. I was first elected in 2012 and reelected unopposed in 2014. I worked across the aisles to get a lot of bipartisan accomplishments completed. Some of the local issues that I worked on was making sure that we had adequate funding for the Iowa Poison Control Center. I worked to expand and make sure that we had crisis stabilization units for mental health for kids at psychiatric facilities, including locally at our Rosecrans Jackson Center that used to operate one of those, but it helped access services for kids more locally in their communities instead of having to send them far away to mental health centers on the other side of the state. I worked to make sure that they renewed funding for the Access Iowa Highways, which helped secure funding to complete Highway 20 across the state of Iowa. I also worked on sentencing reform laws. One of my constituents advocated strongly for having a mandatory minimum for the crime of child endangerment, resulting in the death of a child. And I was able to work with one of my Republican colleagues to get that passed through the House and the Senate and signed by the governor. And it included my name as a co-sponsor throughout the entire time I was on the bill. And as somebody in the minority party, as you know, that rarely happens where they keep a minority party member's name on the bill. So I did earn that reputation of working on good policy, regardless of whether it benefited one party or another. It was about benefiting constituents in my district.
And that is really rare. I mean, I've even heard of Republicans working with Democrats on a bill, but wanting to keep the Democrats' name off the bill because they think that it won't get through the process if there's any Democrat's name on it. So kudos to you for that. So did you decide not to run for reelection to the Iowa House around the same time you moved to Lawton, which was
Yes,
outside your
no,
district?
I decided not to run for reelection in 2016. I had served 4 years. I had never intended to be a career politician. And at that time, we had three small children, all under the age of 10. So I really stepped away kind of last minute because the commitments at home were just more important to me. I wanted to make sure I had a chance to be a father and observe those, first moments for all of my kids. So I stepped away and didn't run for reelection. And we also decided we wanted to live in a small town. Both my wife and I grew up in small towns, and we thought that's how we wanted our kids to grow up as well.
So can you talk a little bit about Lawton? It's part of the Senate district that just had the big swing this week. And what kind of political changes have you seen in Lawton during the time you've lived there?
Lawton is not a political town, definitely, but we would say that the district became a little more conservative since it was redistricted in 2022. It includes rural parts of the district. So the recent special election win in Woodbury County shows that Democrats can win in Northwest Iowa, including in rural parts of the state. But Lawton is a very nice community. It's less than 1,000 people, but most people don't talk politics locally in Lawton.
When did you start thinking seriously about running for Congress?
I really hadn't been thinking about running for Congress at all until Ryan Melton dropped out. He'd been the nominee for the Democrats the last 2 years. And when he dropped out shortly after Father's Day weekend, I believe, in June,
Mhm.
I kept thinking to myself, we need somebody to step up and run on the Democratic side that would be a strong candidate. And so over the next, probably 6 weeks, I talked with my wife, I talked with community leaders, I talked with activists across the fourth district to find out who might be running that would be a strong candidate to put up. And then also another deciding factor is it's going to be an open seat. The incumbent, Randy Feenstra, isn't running for reelection. So it's always an easier task to win a seat anywhere when there's not an incumbent on the ballot. So I thought this might be the best chance we've had in a long time. And with the support of my family and friends, I decided to jump in the race here.
What would you say are the key issues that you're emphasizing in your campaign?
Well, my priorities are definitely working to restore healthcare funding that was cut earlier this year. I think it's important, especially for rural hospitals and rural nursing homes, that we have adequate healthcare funding for the most vulnerable citizens, including pregnant women, children, and the elderly, because rural places, which is largely what the fourth district is, will be hit the hardest, including communities like Cherokee, where I was born, and other small towns throughout the district. I also want to make sure I'm focused on investing in rural communities to make sure that housing is affordable, make sure that farm policy actually works for Iowa, and that farmers are getting the resources that they need to be successful, because when farmers are successful, the whole community is successful. I want to make sure that we strengthen Social Security and Medicare to make sure that those are investments and promises kept to our seniors. And I also want to make sure there's somebody standing up to fight for our rights and our freedoms, that people can't have their rights taken away just because of what their background may be.
And are you going to be campaigning more or less full time, or how are you going to be balancing the other life responsibilities with this campaign? It's such a huge
Um,
district.
It is. The 36 counties in the fourth district is a large area. It goes from Missouri all the way to Minnesota. And I'm going to do my hardest to work throughout the district and meet as many people as I can. But my family and my job, there'll always be my top priorities. They even were when I was in the legislature. So when I have family commitments, I'm going to keep them.
Mhm.
My wife and I are currently the youth volleyball coaches for my daughter, and we're going to keep that opportunity. We pledged we coach this fall, so we'll have that opportunity to continue to help our daughter and her friends in this community. I'm also keeping my job as a prosecutor in the county attorney's office, and I'm not stepping away from that.
Mhm.
I enjoy serving the public, and I think it's important that I keep my job and be a regular part of the community that I want to represent. If I were to be elected, of course, I would have to step away to serve in that role, but
Mhm.
I think it's important that people understand I'm just a regular person, a regular guy, native of the fourth district, who wants to do his best to represent them if I had the opportunity to serve in Congress.
And the I just forgot what I was going to ask. How, you're only just announcing this week, but have you been around the district? How many counties have you visited so far, roughly, as you've been
Um,
thinking about this race?
I visited a few counties. I've probably been in 6 counties
Mhm.
just as I was deciding to run, and I have plans over the rest of this week. I did take vacation time from my job, so I'd have time to go to places. So I have plans to go to actually going to be canvassing today in Ida County and Sac County.
Mhm.
Currently, there are no Democratic County Party chairs in those 2 counties, so I thought let's go to the places where there are the least organized areas and get out there and meet with voters and figure out, if there's support that I can be earned there. I have events planned in Carroll and Crawford County on Friday. I'll
Mhm.
be in Webster County on Sunday, and I'll be at big Labor Day events in Woodbury and Pocahontas, or excuse me, Woodbury and Potawatomi counties on Monday. So I've got a lot of events coming up.
You mentioned in the context of Lawton that this part of the state, I mean, it was red and it's become more red, and particularly Webster County, Carroll County. These are places that when we were growing up were kind of Democratic strongholds that have become more reliably Republican. What's your theory on why that happened and how Democrats can turn that around?
I think we've lost touch with the voters who used to support us. I served with Helen Miller, who was a state representative from Webster County for many years and did a great job representing her community. But she worked hard to get to know the issues in the district. We also had past Democratic leadership from Potawatomi County and had more Democrats represented there. We also had Democrats from Northwest Iowa. I think of Jack Kibbe, who used to represent people from Northwest Iowa. So I think we just lost touch and need to focus on the issues that people care about, which is, well, how is the economy affecting them? How can we make schools better for their kids? What are those issues that are causing costs to go up for families? We need to focus on the issues that people care about and not get distracted with a lot of side issues that the extremists on both sides want us to fight and argue about online instead of actually solving real problems for real people.
Mhm. And were you active at all as a volunteer in Catelin Drey's campaign? I'm just wondering what your view of was of that campaign from within the district.
Yes, I had the opportunity to canvass for Caitlin 3 times over the last month. She's somebody I've known over the last 2 years. She is somebody that will represent the district well. And I was appreciative of all the help that Iowa Democrats sent to the district. I think that if we are well organized and well supported by, not only volunteers, but just people who want to see change, it's possible to turn the tide and elect Democrats throughout Northwest Iowa.
One of the fault lines that I've noticed in Democratic circles this year is how to confront the Trump administration. You mentioned wanting to reverse the healthcare cuts, but one of the biggest issues that I thought divided Democrats was that federal budget, the continuing spending resolution in March, and it looks like we're probably headed toward another showdown, possibly another continuing spending resolution at the end of September. How would you approach that as a member of Congress? Because most of the Democrats voted against those funding bills, but then some voted to let the funding go through to avoid a government shutdown. And how would you approach that kind of thing if you were elected to Congress while Donald Trump is still president?
As a member of Congress, it's my most important job to make sure our government and the services that we provide work well for people in my community. So it would be important that any vote I took was looking out for the best interest of my constituents. So if that meant voting to fund the government, to keep funding available, to make sure that we keep Social Security offices open, that we make sure Medicare and Medicaid payments are being made on time to providers, then you'd have to vote to support that bill because it's going to impact people in your district and put people's jobs at risk. So you don't want to shut off government funding just to make a political point. You need to do what's right for your constituents.
For the last 5 or 6 years, Randy Feenstra, the representative for the Fourth District, has refused to participate in the earmarks process, while other members of Congress from Iowa have done so. And as you may know, this is something I've done a lot of reporting on. Not submitting any earmark request doesn't reduce federal spending at all. All it means is that your own district doesn't have a chance to win any of the funding that's already set aside for earmarks. So I'm just wondering how you would approach that, what kind of projects you might seek support for, and or any comments that you have on how things have been going on that front.
Well, I think our current congressman has failed his district by not asking for federal funds. We're sending the federal tax dollars in. We should be investing those dollars back in our community. We should be investing in projects that help with flooding in our rivers. We had the Big Sioux flood, last summer that wiped out McCook Lake and could have done a lot more damage and did damage in Riverside, an area in Sioux City. We want to make sure that we are investing in wastewater treatment plants to make sure that our water is clean for people to drink. And if we're not getting federal dollars to help support projects like that, you're not doing a good job representing your constituents.
What would be your message? You're the third Democrat to declare in this race. Now, there hasn't been a competitive Democratic primary in this district for a while. What would you say to voters who say, well, I really like all of these candidates. Why should they support you in the primary next June?
I just want to say that over the last 20 years, as I've worked to be a prosecutor, I really am a true public servant. And I'm also a proven leader, having previously been elected and have legislative experience. I know how to get results for people in my district and work hard across the aisle, regardless of who might be the president or who might be in charge in the House or in the Senate. You need to make sure you're building relationships and working to get things done for people and making sure that those issues that you are working for really matter in people's lives. I think my track record proves that I would be the best candidates to elect, not only on the Democratic side, but also on any side of the political aisle.
And is there anything I didn't ask that you think would be important for my readers to know, either about you or about your campaign?
I think it's important that people know that I've been an AFSCME union member for over 20 years. I've had past labor support throughout the district, and I want to make sure that people know I strongly support collective bargaining rights and IPERS. Those are two programs that, since I've left the legislature in 2016, the other side has chipped away at all of those rights. And I think it's important that people stand up for people and protect the rights that they have earned as members of unions, as members of the public, and as public servants who work across sectors, including in education, including private sector employees. We shouldn't be taking away workers' rights at this time. We want to make sure we're standing up for workers.
Well, thanks so much again, Dave Dawson, for taking the time to talk with me.
All right, thanks and have a great day.